these shops. There's people who go in because, they're a jaded lover and they want to control their man, or most of the people that I've seen are in there trying to get money and luck and gambling. And it's amazing how, they'll do spiritual work for things that you can obtain yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So I'm in there, and there's this older lady. She works for like Janet King. In fact, I wasn't in there. I was coming in there, and it was only two people working. It was her on the backside, and when I came in the door, I walk around this huge St. Lazarus statue, and I see her in a corner, and I can sense that, like, something's off with this lady. Like, I just get the feeling something's off with her. But I'm going ahead and I'm finished talking to everybody. I'm just running my mouth, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, I want to get some holy water, and I want to get some blank candles, for my sons to burn for their exams, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm talking, right? And I noticed that she's picking up a whole bunch of stuff that's like skull candles and candles with genitalia on it, male genitalia on it, and all this other stuff. So she comes to the counter, and she starts to ask a question. She says, well, if I burn this, will he think about me? And clearly they had a conversation prior to me walking in the door, and I'm kind of coming in, I'm ear hustling the rest of this conversation. And the guy says, yeah, but, if it's not meant for you to be with this gentleman, then you should just let it go, and you should use the powers of God to kind of find the person for you, as opposed to trying to keep this person with you. Why don't you use it the right way? And she's like, well, no, I want him to think about me. So she starts pulling out these candles because, there's these boxes like brown. Imagine a brown box that holds 12 circular candles. So she's got 3 of those boxes laid across the counter, and she starts pulling up her candles, and she's got like candles that will cause people to be confused. She's got all the oils that she needs to put these spells on this dude. And so I'm just like, whoa, this lady's bugging out. So she turns to me and she says, well, are you a spiritual worker? And I said, I guess you can say that, but I'm not that kind of spiritual worker to where I'm getting ready to do what you're trying to do. And she was like, well, he just needs to have me on his mind. He needs to be thinking about me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what's wrong with New Orleans. It's imagine this for a moment, right? You're in a place where people actually believe and doing spiritual works. People believe in magic. And then you got people being irresponsible. So it's the equivalent of like, a Harry Potter movie going wrong around here. People running around with the wands and wilding out. I mean, it is, bro. Like, people using this stuff for the wrong reasons. And so when I sit back and I look at my city, which I love this city, I love this city, and I hope that I represent it well. But when I sit back and I look at it and I wonder why we got so much violence and so much crazy stuff going on, it's because people tap into the magical powers that are there, but they're just using them for the wrong reason, man. They really, really are. They're using them for the wrong reasons. They're not using them to get closer to God or get close to a higher spiritual power. They're using them to try and manifest these things that are not meant for them. And it's not meant for you. If it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you. Everybody's not meant to have $1 million. Everybody's not meant to have a Mercedes-Benz. And everybody's not meant to be in certain relationships with people.
You mean like Britney Spears or somebody that's really hot and good looking that has a lot of money?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's not meant to have Britney Spears. Like, my girl of choice is Rosario Dawson. Like, I love Rosario Dawson, but hey, I ain't ran into her. Now, if I ever run into her, I'm telling you, I'm shooting my best shot at her. But if she says no, then whatever. It's not meant to be. I'm not going to go get.
How about Janet Jackson? I would settle with Janet Jackson.
Yeah, Janet Jackson. Yeah, I had a crush on Penny when I was a kid, man. When she was on Good Time, everybody loved Penny, man. That's Penny. Everybody loved Penny. But the point I'm making is people have to understand that everything's not meant for you, and what's meant for you, or what's there for you, what's provided for you. Once you find that, you're going to be whole and you're going to be perfect. It's like circles looking for square holes to put themselves in. You know what I'm saying? Like you're off, and you're trying to make things fit that just don't work. So, I see a lot of that going on down here.
Well, how about voodoo? I mean, I think I told you last time, when I was like in junior high school or high school. I can't remember which one. Me and a friend, we watched on one of the sci-fi flicks, they would show horror movies over the weekend. There was a teacher we hated with the biggest
y'all got
passion.
the teacher, yep.
Yeah, so we went out into this magic store up in White Center, up in Washington State, and we bought a voodoo doll and brought it home, and we started sticking pins in it, and the next thing I know, Monday he had appendicitis.
Oh, no, absolutely. I believe the powers work because, and again, I've been doing my research on it, and it turns out that, there's two sources. There's really one source of power. There's an all-high God that has given all this power unto men to use, but the problem is when we abuse it, we do things like what you and your homeboy did. Y'all got the man appendicitis, but you're using it in ways that you shouldn't be using it.
Okay.
And then, there's always consequences for those actions.
Yeah, like it can bite you back in the butt like you wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really will come back on you. Like, I'll tell you, and we're just talking, I'll get into some more stories, but just recently, someone, I'm not sure who it is yet, and I really don't care who it is because I really don't. My biggest concern is to protect myself. Someone must have got angry with me, and they started doing a work against me because I have these St. Michael's candles that are anointed in my house, right? And so it's Thursday evening. I light that candle. And typically the little glass candles, the flame never rises up above the rim of the glass. I have never seen a candle flame this high in my life. I mean, it's like whoosh. And I'm sitting on my bed looking at it, and I said, oh, my goodness, what is this? So I start calling people on the phone that I know that are really into this stuff. And I'm like, look, I got my St. Michael's candle burning, and the flame is like going crazy. And they're like, well, send me a picture. Send them the picture. And they say, well, somebody's trying to do a work against you, and we're not sure what it is. It could be somebody's trying to compel you to come to them and help them, or somebody's trying to confuse you, or somebody's trying to do something. But clearly you got a good relationship with St. Michael because he's protecting you. And it was like, watch how fast that candle burns, and that candle's going to burn it all off because, you're protected. And when I tell you that candle is a 7-day candle, that candle burned in 2 days. It's like, gone. And I was like, well, that's good. It's good to know that. And it makes me more comfortable. I say all this to people listening who be like, what is he talking about? I say all that to kind of set the scene and make you guys understand, like, in this field, in this realm of what we deal in, you really have to protect yourself. And then for me, retelling people's stories, answering the phone for anybody who calls, I really need to be confident in my ability to protect myself when I take those phone calls, because it makes it easier for me to mentally and emotionally to do this when I know that I'm protected. But it requires of me to, keep my spiritual household in order. So I can't be running around wild and doing anything I want to do and sinning left and right. But it really helps out a lot. Now let's go back into that strange phone call, right?
Yeah, let's go back
and
to
let's talk about just a few things. So the gentleman and I end up talking a little bit, and we ended up talking about Dog Man. We came up with a crazy philosophy. I kind of had this philosophy, but I kept it quiet because I would get the question when people say, well, do you think Dog Man is natural or do you think it's spiritual? And I would say, I think it's a natural being. But I haven't told some of the other stories of Dog Man encounters that seem to be more spiritual. And what I mean by spiritual, I mean like manifestations of dog men. But I've always told the in the woods, on a roof, kind of trying to break in the house stories that I've been told by people. But there have been some other crazy stories that I shared with this gentleman, and as we talked, it kind of confirmed a few things that I was thinking. And I'll tell you one of them. Lady calls me one night. I think it had to be about 9:30. It was 9:30 because I just finished helping my son do his homework. And I was telling him, look, bro, you need to get in the bed. You got a test. Come out on the porch. I light my cigar, and I'm like, okay, I can talk to you. And she's like, well, I'm not sure what I saw in my house, but I think I saw one of those things you call a dog man. And I'm like, well, ma'am, dog man is pretty big. I don't really see it like being in your house without ripping your door off or ripping your wall down. It's not like it's just going to walk in the door. I said, it's going to have to rip the door off, or it's going to turn the doorknob and kind of squeeze itself in, but I just don't see that happening. So she goes into her story where she said her prayers at night. She was laying in the bed, and she heard a noise in her kitchen. And I'm like, okay, noise in the kitchen, say your prayers. And I'm following along the story. She gets up, she starts heading down the hallway to her kitchen, and she sees this furry creature in her kitchen. And I'm like, well, okay, pause. Because, you know, when people start saying that, I had people tell me the dog man jumped their fence with like a blade in their hand, and he had pants on before, right? So I'm trying to make sure that this lady's not, you know, off her rocker. So I said, okay, let's go back to the beginning, you know, and I just want her to start all over. So I said, can you tell me how you pray? You know, just because I want her to start all over. So she goes into her prayer and tells me what she says in her prayer, and then she goes back to the story. And she says, well, when I got in the kitchen, there was this furry dog on all fours in my kitchen, but his back was turned to me. And I was like, okay, describe your kitchen. Because I'm thinking about the size of my kitchen, and what I know about dog man, he's not going to fit in my kitchen, bro. You know what I'm saying? He's not. He's not going to fit in my kitchen. So my mind is telling me right now, okay, this lady's lying to you, or she's crazy. Then she goes on to tell a little bit more, and she says, well, as I'm coming into the kitchen, she said, I start to smell it. And she said, it smells like this bloody, like blood and this sulfur smell. I'm like, okay. Sulfur is directly related to demons. Blood is directly related to demonic things. And I said, okay, well, tell me what happened after that. And she says, well, I'm standing there, and it's about 10 feet away from me. I'm like, wow, that's a big kitchen. My brain is just being sarcastic. And it says, she says, it's about 10 feet away from me. And then it turns and looks over his shoulder, and it has these red eyes. And I'm like, okay, now I'm not believing her at all. I'm not believing anything she says at all, because she's saying it's got red eyes. Normally the iris shine is due to a reflection of light being in the dark. So just solid red eyes, you know, this is not in bounds with what I've always heard. But this is the thing that got me with her. This is the one thing that got me, that made me say, okay, well, maybe this lady is not lying. She says, it turns, it looks over his shoulder, and as it's trying to turn its body around inside the kitchen, she says that she falls on her knees and she starts praying. And I said, well, okay, you fall on your knees right in front of it? She said, I fell on my knees right there, and I started praying. And when I closed my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, it was gone. I said, okay. All right, maybe she had some kind of manifestation of something in her house. I said, well, what did you see once you looked on the floor? She said, I saw 2 prints on the floor. And I was like, okay, what kind of prints? She was like, they were prints that were burnt into my floor. She had not ceramic tile, you know, that vinyl cheek tile, that stick-down vinyl.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
She had the stick-down vinyl. She said they were literally canine prints that were pressed down and burnt into her floor. So then I'm like, all right, this is a wild one. I don't know if I'm going to tell this one. So I said, well, who was at home with you at this time? Because I'm like, this is a wild one. I said, well, who was at home with you at this time? He's like, well, nobody was at home with me at that time. But that morning, my boyfriend came in and he saw the prints on the vinyl tiles. And I'm like, okay, well, can I talk to your boyfriend? She's like, sure, I'll give him your number to have him call you because he's at work. Okay, no problem. About 2 days later, he calls. And this dude is straight up blue collar worker. And he's like, yeah, I heard you wanted to talk to my old lady about this thing that's been coming in our house. And I'm like, yes, sir. I'm just trying to see if she's telling me the truth. Well, I can tell you for myself that whatever it was, it left those big old prints on our floor. And I was like, okay. Now, these 2 people, he's verifying what she's saying. So I started trying to get closer to him. Spent about 3 days talking to him. Learned a whole bunch about this guy. He's not the kind of guy to lie. He's done some nefarious things in his lifetime to make sure he kept the bills paid. And those type of people, they pride themselves on not being liars because their word is their bond. And I'm like, okay, I know this personality. He's not lying. And I said, well, have you ever seen it again? He's like, I saw it early one morning at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was coming home. He said, I was out drinking with my friends. He said, I wasn't drunk, though. He said, but I had a couple of beers. He said, I came in, And he said, I saw it in the driveway. And I said, well, do